It's going. We wait for a few seconds.
Good. Come on, Ed. I do like the backgrounds that you've been running. You know, the elk and the deer, the coast structure.
Right. Well, we are live now, Ed. So, although the
when the
streaming.
liberal group got a exempt status, and 3 that I just mentioned didn't for over 2 years. Mr. Nunes mentioned Ms. Lerner. Who was her boss in 2011 and 2012? Who did she report to?
I believe it would have been
Sarah Ingram, maybe?
part of that time, and part of that time another gentleman.
Okay, and that other gentleman has since submitted his resignation?
I believe so.
And what is Ms. Ingram doing today? What's her job title?
She works on on implementing the Affordable Care Act.
Okay, who promoted her to that position?
I would have moved her into that position.
Why would you promote somebody to that position who was in charge of the exempt organization division, which certainly has had some controversy over the last couple years, under an investigation?
Because she is a superb civil servant, sir.
So she had nothing to do with this?
I wouldn't imagine so.
Even
By the
though
way, I can't speak to individual cases. I can say generally, we provided horrible customer service here. I will admit that. We did. Horrible customer service.
You
Whether it was
targeted an
politically
individual.
motivated or not is a very different
You
question.
targeted an individual, an American who still doesn't know to this day why he was questioned number 26.
All right, time has expired. Mr. Becerra is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your testimony. And let me key off of something, Mr. Miller, you said. You said foolish mistakes were made. I think the President actually said it better. He said that the handling of those tax-exempt applications in that process at the IRS was outrageous and intolerable. No excuse. And as much as we know that the folks at IRS have a thankless job because they have to go and tell their fellow Americans that they may be audited or they have to do this work under activity took place, because it erodes the confidence of the American people in a system where they participate voluntarily. And if there's a place in public service where you have to have the highest level of conduct and standards, it's at the IRS. And so, Mr. Miller, I think it's unfortunate for those who are in positions of authority, but the buck has to stop somewhere, and I think that's exactly what we're saying. That should not diminish the good work that has been done by anyone within the IRS over the years. And so I hope you understand that you are here today talking to us because we need to get to the bottom of this. We need to clean up and clear out so we can go back to the business of making sure that people respect the fact that we have a voluntary system of paying our taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Miller, I want to talk a little about the culture of the organization. As looking at the note, your bio, 90,000 employees, $12 billion budget. You've been there 25 years. I'm concerned, and I guess to start off, you know, we've got a mission statement there. I'm very concerned about the breadth and the depth of maybe what's going on. I think a lot of employees probably do a good job, but I've been a person that's been in business 30 years and run larger organizations. So you've got a mission statement in terms of talking about working for the American people, doing what's right, playing by the rules. Is that something that's internalized at the IRS, or is that just something on a website?
So I believe, Congressman, it's internalized, and the vast majority of our folk are hardworking, incredibly honest people. I'm going to tell you, and you guys should hear that as these discussions occur, as you know, it's damaging to the morale of those people. And we, you know, it's probably ultimately damaging to the sense of voluntary compliance that underlies our entire tax system.
Well, let me just say, I think there's probably a lot of good people, but at the same time, we've got a massive PR problem at minimum.
We do.
And this has got to be dealt with quickly, and it can't just drag on for 6 months to a year. So I think we need to get to the bottom of it. The other thing, let me just ask, in terms of that size organization, who's in charge? who's the boss? How is that hierarchy? How does it work? You know, I ran a very decentralized business where I had a corporate structure, but I had managers and partners in different operations. How is the IRS, you know, in terms of being an acting commissioner? You've been there 25 years. Who do you report to, or the commissioner, ideally in the past, who do they report to? And at what point, when something like this comes up, who's involved at the next level up?
So the reporting chain and the organization is, there are 2 deputies and reporting to the commissioner, and the commissioner reports to the deputy secretary of Treasury.
Who's ultimately responsible?
The commissioner, acting commissioner, not the Treasury. The Treasury relationship is such that they would not be involved.
So who would be responsible for you? Who basically asked you to resign or fired you?
It would be Secretary Lew.
Secretary Treasurer. The other thing is, let me ask you, there's been 2 people that have been, were you terminated or fired? What happened there? Or are you getting ready to retire?
I was asked to resign, and I will retire.
Okay.
As under the civil service rules.
Now, on what basis do you feel like you're getting asked, and maybe one other person, I guess, got asked, but it seems like there's a lot of other people, ideally in Cincinnati and Washington and other parts, that haven't been held accountable?
I'm not sure what the question is, sir. If I could answer it and then tell me if I'm answering the wrong question.
Okay, go ahead.
We're not done yet. We're not. We now have the Treasury Inspector General's report. We now have the sense of the facts. Now is the time for those that remain, including the incoming acting commissioner, Mr. Werfel, to take those actions.
Let me mention, as it's been brought up with a couple of the ladies that work with you, Lois Lehner and Sarah Ingram, what's being done about those 2? Because they've been in the press. There's a lot of concern about that. They ran a large operation, and it seems to be at the heart of the issues today. I think that's got to get dealt with in a very aggressive, clear way in the next week or 2.
I don't know whether it will be or not. That will be up to the new acting commissioner.
All right, Ed. Time to wake up.
Oh, I've been awake.
Okay. But, okay, everybody. This is Education by Ed. It's April 15th, 2018. Remember, today is the National Give Your Blood to the Pirate Corporation known as the IRS Day. This is the deadline. If you give part of your soul over, you got to finish it today. Ed, take it away.
Oh, yeah, this goes to religion decisions, too, and people don't get that about religion. Because this is one of the religious blessing days that the founding religions all agree on. So it is one of those things that people will sit there and turn their assets over to the government and without questioning it. I'm questioning it myself. I'm getting ready for who knows what's going to transpire. I've been putting my letter out dealing with income and property taxes. I've never paid, basically both. But anyhow, when it comes down to it, I want to bring a lot of issues up tonight, and one is dealing with Syria, and we're going to get into that one too, because it is interesting when you really realistically look at life and how are these men and women able to keep funding these terrorist activities? Well, it's by your tax, your gift. Remember, it's a gift that you give them to spend as they want, and that goes to the churches, to the Vatican, to the terrorists that are robbing your children. And then you want to get upset. It's like, everybody wants to try to get upset at Trump. Now we bombed Syria, and everybody's, a lot of people are praising him, and then you got a lot of people that are saying we should have done that. And what really disturbs me is today we do have genocide going on in our own states. We're poisoning each other by the water, by the air, because look at what they're dumping by air chemicals. Look at what some of the cities are putting in their water system. Look at even the mining operations that are destroying the rivers. Look at the oil operations that are destroying the plains. For money, greed. I want a job. How about get off your butt and go get your food out of the rivers, the streams, and the mountains? You know, nobody's guaranteed a job in this world. But our forefathers and the Great Spirit, Mother Earth, made sure we had food. And that's called our public resources. And this is where people don't comprehend. They think that Oregon, we grow trees and we can grow many trees. Washington. But you guys apparently never read history. Don't even know that on the East Coast was pretty much like what we are on the West Coast today. We're butchering all the trees down from the 14th century on up and sending it to their countries that they came from without respecting our country, our people. You know, greed. And so we wonder why, you know, when our government, and it's not our government technically, in a sense it is, because we the government are we the people. We have elected and public servants, if anybody comprehends to that one. And that's where people need to comprehend this point. That, you know, without the forest, where are we going to eat tomorrow? We got radiation that's killing us. And that's the one thing that is so interesting. We got all these things that are poisoning our resources. We got nuclear waste that's leaking out from Washington State to Oregon State from Hanford. We've got the pollution that comes from, Japan. And we got the pollution that comes from the ocean with all the plastics and stuff that, I don't know. The people who knew about the situation just went out and dumped it. I mean, there was barges of trash up in New York City that they couldn't go out and dump in the ocean anymore like they were used to doing. And so some of them have still gone out and dumped it in the ocean, and then we wonder what's going on, and then they blame us. Oh, yeah, that's right. We're supposed to be the blamable ones because that was supposedly our trash that went in a garbage can that went into the system that they're telling us that, we're going to recycle. They don't recycle, folks. If they recycled, some of the big plants couldn't sit there and unearth and ruin the earth and take down the forest and all this for minerals that they want. Because you can recycle plastic over and over and over again. You know, it's like even former Senator Gary George, when they were talking about redoing the roads, that came up using not only plastic, but the old tires, shred the tires up. Well, the argument came up at the Capitol on that was because the insurance company said, we can't do that. Because then that way insurance rates would go down so low because people won't be in accidents. I mean, folks, they spend billions of dollars on these things up at the Capitol, psychologically analyzing you. They're doing this to sit there and figure out what you're going to spend, how you're going to spend your money. That's why everybody's on the credit card system, so they know what you're buying, what your purchase is, so that way they can tag it into, I think it's called your children's, tacking it into your children for the responsibility for them to pay for your sins. See, all this stuff with the courts and all this stuff with your elected and public employees is all about religion. It's the foundation of religion. I mean, the one thing is that people don't get religion, and I'm going to get this one point that I think we got it flashing up on the screen here on the we do, the Oregon Trackers YouTube channel. But see, the thing is that this is all we are men and women. We're not doctors, lawyers, attorneys, or anything. We're just people of common sense who've got the common reality of what's going on. We see the destruction of greed. And not only that, for people, right, your next door neighbor, personal greed, my business. So it's like I emailed to the new candidates that are running for governor what I filed on Linda Pilzer, and that I'm dealing with the media and getting all that out. And some of you folks have got it. I sent it to you. And anybody who would like a copy of what I sent them to prove the law, and ask her what Constitution she signed, if she signed the Constitution of Religion of 1871, or is her oath of office under the Constitution of We the People. This is actually in my letter to them that's been out and getting out this weekend, and more is going out, and I got calls to make tomorrow. But it's like when Donald Trump brought up Syria, we got to literally think about this. And a lot of men and women have brought up good points that I've bounced around today on the phone, and I couldn't get as much I wanted to get accomplished yet on my stuff. But I'm going to get into religious test here, and I'm going to show you something. And this is one thing Donald Trump said in one of his speeches, but nobody caught it. Some caught it. I got a YouTube video I've been putting out right now, and I'm asking people to read. It's Corsi Exposed Truth. Trump recruited by the military. And people wonder why the Navy shooting with Obama and a lot of other things haven't happened. Well, people are waking up to what the Constitution has been really done compared to the craziness has been wrongfully educated. I mean, come on, think about it. Why would Donald Trump want to become president when he's, got all of his other structures running, and he's, he knows how to screw the people. He knows how to screw the system. He was taught by the system to screw it. So why, he's not out there doing this for his health when it really comes down to it. He has a comprehension of some things of what freedom is, because if he allows it to golf, they could actually throw him out on the street, literally. And people think, oh, that can't happen. But you guys got to wake up. It's happened to how many people you know? Even powerful people that didn't follow through on some religious structure, and they were attacked and assaulted. See, and this is what always gets to me. People say, that doesn't have an effect. Well, when you first came to this country, and if anybody knows some things about real history, there was actually, in the East Coast, there was religious tests for which state had religion that came from England before the colonies broke away from that and did a constitution to separate them from religion, from government. Government is the churches. Government is religion. So that was set up to separate us from that, so that way we had a right to believe it when we wanted, or any religion we want, but we don't have a right to dictate it to anybody else how to live. And if they don't go by our religious beliefs, let's say Mormons, we don't believe in them. We don't believe in the Amish or Christians or whatever religion it is. But see, the bottom line is you're entitled to have your religion, but you're not entitled to sit there and tell people what your religious decisions are. That's what people are doing with chemical bombs right now. And Donald Trump said, screw it, we're not playing that. So we bombed Syria. And it ain't the first time we've been involved in Syria. Don't forget, Hillary Clinton had cover-ups in that country too. Mueller did. A lot of these public servants of the Democratic Party were all involved with Syria when they even, had the FBI and CIA deliver arms back to Syria. Does anybody remember that part of history too? How many millions to $1 billion that we spent on Syria and arming them years back? This is the one thing that people have got to look at, what we're living in. And see, without religious wars, there's no income. World War II, that did a big boost to this country, getting us involved. We cut down the trees. We disturbed and destroyed public forest land that we hunted and fished. We cut those trees down and put in products. We destroyed our ecosystem and our food resources, and we wonder why they say we got climate change? Yeah. And then when people sit there and goes, oh, Oregon grows wood all the time. Yeah, where's the real rain that we used to get? Where's the real nice dark blue skies we used to have before they started putting all this other crap in the air and our food and our water? See, so, and there was a good point that was brought up, is why doesn't Donald Trump bomb DuPont, Los Santos? We got 4 or 5 major chemical companies in the Mideast that put your chemicals together. That even Clorox, that's a bioweapon. Anybody knows you mix what is that ammonia and Clorox? There's a gas killer right there. Warfare. You've got it all in your home. They know it. That's the one thing they do know. And then when people accidentally do that, and then if they do die, the hospital just throws them in, collects their straw man account, and the companies still get away with it, even though that they've been sued in the past. But they take that money, if that's like tobacco money. Oh, we're going to teach education. What kind of bullshit is that? It's like the tobacco money that won on the lawsuits for, well, they poisoned us. Then they get away with saying, well, it's on the label, and you know you're poisoning yourself. Ah, well, yeah, okay, so not only have you psychologically drilled this bullshit in our head by TV, radio stations, and all this other stuff, how to kill ourselves, and then people want to know why people have frustrations in their days. I mean, we're living all this stuff. Everybody wants to argue about this, and I agree. There should be a point right now, a good letter that goes out to Trump and the Congress dealing with the chemicals of this stuff and asking them this election what are they going to do. But also, too, that needs to be asked publicly at public meetings, which I would love to be at some of these public meetings, but, you know, you have no idea, folks. I mean, when I was going to public meetings, they had SWAT team waiting outside sometimes. I always thought that was interesting. Well, Ed, that ain't for you. And I'm going, what? Because I'm bringing up the budget and I'm bringing out this, that, and the other thing. What I've done, I proved that the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife lied to you, the people, when we have subsistence fishery quotas that I proved in the state of Oregon that Terry Thompson of Lincoln County stole from you with, what was her name? Kate Brown, Gene Cowan, a lot of other people. Some of the other businesses in the community were involved with that too because they were looking at the income for them, you know, for the stores. It's like a crab permit. What the hell is it? Now they're talking about, still trying to talk about getting a crayfish permit. I want to know how stupid people really are. I mean, now ODF and W, I started doing fishing tournaments, picking up where some other people left off, 25 years ago. So I was doing fishing tournaments around Lincoln County and some parts of the state. Basically, and then I didn't have a problem because basically I ended up being the babysitter for most people because they drop off their kids. I had fishing equipment. And they would go do whatever they were doing that afternoon. I'll see them back in 4 or 5 or 6 hours. And they pick up the kid. Basically, I turned out to be a babysitter for a lot of people, and I didn't mind. It was a cool deal. The kids were learning how to fish. They were learning how to not only fish in, what was that called, a publicly owned reservoir, a publicly owned pond. But there was no requirements of them to have licenses. There was no requirements for them to prove who they were. There was no requirements for them to have ID because we have a right to feed ourselves. Well, when you look at ODF&W today, they got all these fishing programs for kids. Come on, we'll teach you how to fish, and we'll give you a couple free fishing days here and there. And and then we got all the crap they're putting in the rain. Then we got all the crap that ODF&W is putting in the fish that they're putting in our rivers and streams right now today, the food that they're feeding them. This crap, pellets and all this man-made crap. Now, I put in some programs years ago, 30 years ago, putting natural hatcheries structures together and, basically taking manure and different food products and stuff like that and put it in boxes along the river. So that way you get your worms, you got your natural food resources that the fish were normally used to eating as short as some areas 15 years ago. And it's putting back into the resources so that way we do have food. Now, you got to remember, when they clear cut this stuff, they don't want us to have food. And I've heard all these worthless excuses going, well, the deer like it when the trees are growing up, so that way they got more room. Wrong. I've been hunting in the woods. I've been hunting in the open areas. I've been hunting. They're all over the place. Doesn't matter if it's clear cut or not, but mostly on clear cut, you'll watch the deer and the elk move inside the tree line. Very seldom do they come up basically walking out in the open. You know, it's sort of like one of those things you get to learn when you're growing up as a kid. You don't sit there and put yourself in the opening. You know, when you're playing war games. We've all been through that. But I mean, people, you got to look at how the forest works compared to what they've changed the description of it. Because Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, when it was originally instructed back in 1889, when the state became a corporation that was unannounced to the general public until I think it was 1913 or 1903, then 1912, and then the 1913 filing. That the state of Oregon's original Department of Fish and Wildlife was to raise food resources. It should be on the website. It used to be on my old website. I actually had it, original paperwork for the foundation of it given to me from one of the former directors of the agency. And he goes, here, Ed, you could have this. Because, I mean, I've already been discussing it. I already had it on my website, so he gave me a copy. And but I just want to let you folks, you got to pay attention to your elected and public service, what they have turned us against each other by religion. How many people are fighting over religious beliefs, over what they believe? This is the one thing I wanted to get into. It's like when the 13 colonies were done, people don't comprehend the way it was. In Pennsylvania, each member before taking a seat shall subscribe to the following declaration. I do believe in God, creator and governor of the universe. I rewarded of good and the reward of the good and to punish the weakened. And I do acknowledge scriptures of the Old and New Testament to be given by the divine inspiration. I mean, this is one thing. I mean, when some of these forefathers I got here before the others, Benjamin Franklin, a lot of these other men decided, no, we're not going to have these different religions and stuff running us. Maryland, that no other test or qualification ought to be required on admission of an office or trust or profit than such an oath and fidelity to this state and the declaration of belief in the Christian religion. Okay, no freedom of religion in Maryland. They're already dictating to you if you're not a Christian. Well, you already see the light of that one. Massachusetts, we've already got this in real history, too. Every fight on this is why some of the wars happen. Massachusetts, any person choosing governor, lieutenant governor, council, senator, representative, accepting the trust shall before he proceeds executor of the duties of his office or place, make and subscribe the following declaration. I do declare and believe in Christian religion, and I have a firm persuasion of its truth. Isn't that interesting? Persuasion of the truth. So these are religious structures that were done in these states before that the Constitution and the declarations were actually starting to be written. This is why when people started figuring this stuff out, remember, your natives were getting this stuff going. Wait a minute, you're not going to dictate to us. You're not going to tell us what's going on here. So I'm in New York City. The convention notes first declare that the free exercise and enjoyment of religion, profession, and worship without discrimination and preference shall forever hereafter be allowed within the state. New York, oh, hey, we got freedom of religion in that state. South Carolina, no person shall be eligible for the seat of House of Representative unless he be protesting religion. Similar religion apply to members of Senate and House and Governor and exclusive council. So Protestant religion. So I mean, this is what gets to me. All this religion stuff, and I posted this stuff up. I think we were running it on the New Oregon Trackers. We've got it on the YouTube video. I think is going up. I see we've had a little off and on, probably some technical difficulties here. But anyhow, getting this stuff out. Now, how are we going to handle this? Now, we need to. I've already talked to a couple people. We need to bounce the letter around. I was suggesting that we could put one letter together that, let's say, we agree to, let's say, in 30 hours, 40 hours, or by next week at the latest. But I like to try to get done in the next 48 hours. And if we could do this in the next 48 hours, we can get it all over Facebook. We can get it out, and this way, it's basically one letter, 1.5 pages. So it explains the whole circumstances, is how come that they're allowing this to happen. And the one thing that needs to be explained in this is, like, I've been preaching to corporations for years and you people for years. You have to file on the CEO and board members. They're the ones personally liable. Corporations, dead people, you can't kick a dead horse when it's dead. You can't keep kicking a dead woman or man when it's dead. You can't go to the corpse because there's nobody there alive for a corporation. You have to go to the men and women behind the corporation. They're the ones who are liable. They're the ones that are creating injured parties. So, and then that way in this thing we can put for Freedom of Information Act too in this letter. Now, let me make sure that people comprehend this. I have been going out on, putting this letter out as much as I can to every agency what I'm questioning this elected servant about. I want to know the truth of her job. Who does she work for? We the people, or does she work for the terrorist government, foreign agents? So this is the one thing that if we don't sit there and start standing up, and we have a system, and everybody wants to knock the system we got. We need to change this. We need to change that. We need children reform acts. We need this bullshit. We need to sit there in the street and argue and yell and scream at each other and be stupid. No, we don't. All we got to do is start filing these instruments on these men and women, and like the election time right now, get out there in the polls. Ask these men and women directly. We need to get letters out to them in their office, which I'm sending out. I've been sending out to the so-called men and women who are running for governor for the state of Oregon. I mean, and it's like, we got all these men and women that, I'm an expert in government. Oh, okay. So in other words, what's the point of putting you in office? What are you going to do for us? How bad are you going to rape, rob, and pillage? How much are you going to lie to us? How much are you going to raise taxes? And people go, well, Ed, you shouldn't think about it that way. Well, we have to think about it this way, folks. Because, like I said, we do have one that's in place right now that has been a domestic terrorist, has committing extortion, treason, racketeering, fraud. Not only that, the biggest fraud, she was born in Spain. Kate Brown is not an American. Constitution of Oregon that administratively that the Democrats changed after I made it publicly known. So you guys got to read what they did and put on the ballot since 1998, 99. Some of the stuff they put on the ballot was illegal at all because people can't vote on the Constitution. The Constitution is the law of the land. It cannot be changed by we the people. There's points in the Constitution that says it's the law of the land. That means it cannot be changed or altered by we the people. It wasn't designed so that way we could wishy-washy over this stuff. It was designed to protect our families or households, not to have some foreign country come in and start dictating to we the people how we're living. To stop dictating to us at what we're doing. You know, I mean, I've been putting out this other thing with Public Law 11248 with the United States Postal Service locate. And everybody goes, well, Ed, what do you mean by this? And it says if you basically want a court case, you got to make sure that you're notified the Post Office General, and this is the one that says it by law who's supposed to handle the paperwork and file it. First Lieutenant, Post Office Building. So it's interesting when you start putting the pieces together of who, what, why, and how our public servants are supposed to be working for us. Now, we're going to see what happens because it's like I've been going through the issue right now where I put this stuff out, and I know the media has been terrified of me for years. I've even had them bluntly tell me to my face that they're not going to run different stories because they're not going to lose their job, their pension. I mean, I get it. I know how people, that only care about themselves. And it's sad that we're in a structure that we're living that way. It really is a sad structure. We are living that way. And so when people don't pay attention, like with this one thing that we're getting, bombed with Syria, they're poisoning their own people. But then again, we've been watching it where the media keeps saying, we got our military over there shooting these people up. So what's the truth here? What's really going on with Syria? Why the hell are we even over there? It's like you get over the deal with Muslims and you get over this deal with Israel. What the hell are we sitting there helping Israel out and sending money to these people for? It's their religion, their beliefs. What the hell are we paying them for their beliefs for? Why are we supporting some of these people destroying our own country? See, this is the thing that we got to pay attention to where the money's going on. Who's doing what, who, what, why, and how. So we got a lot of things on the plate here of how to start doing this. And this is the one thing that, it looks like we're getting ready to start a couple more wars again. Well, what's going on with that? Oh, we got to keep the corporations have to keep the money coming in because you want jobs. You don't want to live free. You don't want to enact your rights. You want to sit out there and give your rights and privileges over to somebody else. You don't want to sit there and protect your rights and your bloodline. That's what the Democrats are getting away with. So, we have options. And so instead of throwing in the towel, I get so frustrated when I hear some of these other people going, there's nothing we can do. And this is the way it is. It doesn't work that way. Oh, yeah, and we want to get into this other one point, too. Remember, who practices? Doctors and lawyers practice. So by them performing a repetitive order or to acquire a skill of proficiency, so if they are protected when they are good enough to implement what they have spent lifetime practicing. See, this is the one thing. These guys claim that they're practicing. So when do they ever become good enough to be having a qualification to have a license to be employed? Oh, that's what people don't think about. Well, both of these agencies write their own licenses. Well, actually, what do they call that? Membership cards. And you have to have a certain degree of education to get a membership card. And then both of these agencies, the medical and the attorneys and lawyers, and people say, well, attorneys and lawyers are different. No, they're not. Read the damn Black Law Dictionary. Read the damn Bouvier Dictionary. You'll see one part where they say, well, a lawyer is supposed to represent, an attorney represents the corporation. But a lawyer is a liar, and that's what it says in the deal. So, I mean, make your own assessments as judges, but the writing's on the wall. I just cannot believe how people do not see how simple the structure we're living is. Well, like I said, in Oregon, in all 48 states, Alaska and Hawaii are not part of the United States. They're part of the United States Incorporation. To make that clear, Alaska, it's got a lot of food up there. Hawaii's got a lot of food out there. They used to have until they opened up all the commercial fishing out there and let all these people come around the world and come fish their food out. See, if they didn't do commercial advertising and they stay out of it, that's the one thing. People go, well, how can you own a business with not paying registration, income tax, without registering with the county and city and state and do all this stuff?
Ed.
Well, go ahead.
If you listen to any of the commercials and you really listen to their disclaimers at the end, like with Wendy's, they have this big meal deal. They say at the end, not valid in Alaska, Hawaii. Wonder why.
Well, that's the point. They were brought in commercially, and they're making sure that they cannot be liable for anything in the product. Because we just had, what was it, Wisconsin just had all the eggs in the state with salmonella poisoning. So this way you don't know what you're eating from McDonald's and Wendy's and stuff like that. Some of us know. That's why we won't go there. I don't mind Burger King in a sense when I once in a while go get a burger for my dog when it really comes down to it, because I know it's donkey and horse meat. At least it's not other type of products that, I don't want to get into the cannibalistic point, but realistically it comes that way. So that's the point where people don't comprehend some of these things. They really don't get it. And so when they're practicing, why can't I practice? Why can't you practice? See, that's the thing that, we can sit there and play that practicing game, but when does it come to a point where these guys have to be perfectly liable and responsible? And then if you get to go through an issue with a medical issue or whatever, hire an attorney. An attorney goes, well, how much can I get from you? First, I want $5,000 up front, and if I win your case, that's what I get. And if I don't win it, I still get, and I'm still going to pay you another $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, just as long as I can put you in the credit history and keep you in a debt to the system, the religion. And that's what we are really going through with this structure. Religion. Because the one thing is I get people all the time that, Ed, you got to believe in the Bible. You got to do this. You got to do that. And it's like, no, I don't. I'm not from that era. I don't believe in that structure when it comes down to it because I believe what I see. I go out and I get the salmon. I get the trout. I gone out there and got my deer. My birds. That's the one thing. How many people how to gut and fish and skin a deer and elk? And then what the other point is, I'm fighting my disability because my body's getting worse. They know it. And then I'm told by the doctors when I'm getting ready to write this, because I got a couple of other projects I'm writing right now for a couple other people trying to get them done. I'm still getting this thing emailed out with Linda because I want to make sure that this gets out there with all the media and all the structure. I don't give a shit if it doesn't do anything right now, but I know in time it's going to make one hell of a bump, maybe a little explosion. And this is where I'm asking these men and women who are running for office locally and county and state, and I'm emailing them this personally to these people who are claiming they're running for office. What I filed on Linda, I'm sending them right to these candidates. We already know you're going to cover up. We want to know how bad. Basically, is what I'm saying in some of it. I'm not totally being rude, but it's like, what the hell are you running for office for? What are you going to improve? And so that's the point that we need to get this out. So we need to put something out with Syria, seeing that this is basically an open door right now. Trump's bombed Syria for chemicals. Well, we need to put something out here pretty darn quick. Why doesn't Trump bomb these chemical companies? You know, and then the other point, I live in a logging community, and everybody says, well, you're against logging. We hate you. I'm not against logging or gleaning. I'm against clear cutting. And clear cutting was supposed to be set up for a maximum of 50 acres. Then the maximum was supposed to be 100 acres and never go over that. And that was, we argued all that back in the 90s and 2000s, so that way we could sit there and keep our deer and elk, and they had to rotate it every 30 years, so they couldn't take down, you know, the major big trees. They couldn't take them down for some of them, not permanently, because if they go over what they call a 100-year-old tree, you can't cut it down. They call that old-growth timber. I thought old-growth timber was 500 years or more. That's the way I used to hear it from the elders growing up. Anything under 500 years was a new growth, and we don't even know it was in the woods before we cut it down 500 years prior. So that's what gets me about all these scientists and all these people going, I need a job. It's like when they got the crab bill, and the guy who wrote the crab bill, co-author of the crab bill, was the crab scientist for the East Coast that ended up being a Toledo County commissioner, moved into the city, to keep an eye on me. I was going on public meetings. I always walk around most of the time with one of my arms on my hip, literally. There's no point of packing something that's unloaded, okay? Hey, you know, I deal with that. The cops all know it. They all know I carry open and concealed. It's been public in the media and stuff. I've been blowing on it because that's your right. You can't go out and do stupid stuff. You have to be responsible. So this guy starts attacking me in the public meetings, and about, you know, I'm such a dangerous guy walking around with my 44 or 357, whatever it is, on my hip. And then next thing you know, he's making this big deal trying to get everybody to go after me, and the managers at the grocery store, you know, after me doing this for, 20 years in my community. Hey, Ed, you care to remember? I said, what, you noticed after all the years? Well, we didn't have this. I said, oh, I know who's making the issue. So we finally got over that point when he comes up to me in the grocery store and starts talking to me because of what I was filing on his industry, the crab, because I was going to hold him personally liable, and I was filing on him as a city servant. So, and he was part of the ones that conspired and did attacks on me and my ex and the kids and all this stuff too, because of his family connections in the community, dealing with the school board after I recalled him and proved it. That's like, what the hell's his name? Doug Hunt, and Lincoln County Commissioner, and Terry Thompson, Lincoln County Commissioner. Doug Hunt, I recalled off the school board. I recalled him by 65% off of the school board. Proved the banker stole $30 million from your schools. Yeah, he owns one of the banks in the community. Plus, he's on the housing board. He's on the tax board. Yeah, he's one of the bankers of the community. I went after this guy, proved it, recalled him, proved the $30 million. Then the state attorney general and everybody started attacking me. So that's what gets me when people sit there and they go, well, you don't know what it's like. And it's like, no, I do know what it's like. I've been through this. But you have to educate yourself how to fight on these issues, which I've been doing, not only educating myself, but I've been filing as long as I'm doing it to make sure it's publicly. I'm not going to sit there with my head in a hole. You know, and I'm sure not going to try to do all this stuff and think someday I'm going to end up in some real court system. Because the one thing is, until the real court system's there, it's going to take we, the people, to make sure it happens. And the only way to start making sure this happens is doing it the way we know how to do best. That's with each other, through each other. You know, making sure the information gets out there, getting these petitions out. Now, some of these petitions I get people send me all the time, I don't support. I will not be part of. I will not take support in some of these things especially some of these alleged recalls and stuff like this. They're doing it out of vengeance just to aid one's party for personal financial gain. So that's the point. You know, this is the fact of life, of learning how the chess game works, the Monopoly game works. So we know that we have rights that were put in place to protect lawful Americans, as well as legal citizens, so long as they're not on a system. And technically, if you read immigration law, they're supposed to have their own resources to come to this country. They're not supposed to be employed in this country. And even by law, if you employ an immigrant, that's a federal crime. You go to jail because they're not supposed to have employment in this country. So this is what gets to me. People don't read the law. Everybody goes, we want to do this, we want to do that. We are a democracy. We have a right to vote. Well, your voting is killing yourself. That's why we got the chemicals. That's why when you sit there and pay these alleged income tax, property taxes, and all this stuff, I don't know what's going to happen at the end of what I'm doing. I sure don't have faith in what they call faith because of what I've been through. But I'm still going to file this stuff and go through. I got a couple more filings. I got some more paperwork I'm writing for a couple other individuals that I'll be sending them off here within the next probably 24 hours. And, you know, so and then we'll get a template up. We'll throw out the ideas and get them up on the new.org and trackers. You know, I mean, I still got that to figure out here in the next few months. So, I mean, you know, it's one of those things. So, you know, as soon as we can get that 192 in place, and that's what I'm pushing on them, well, what I'm doing right now is doing this. So that was the one point of doing all this, is so that way we know who our government really is. Are they working for us or are they not? We know they're not. We want them to put it in writing they're not. And then this way you can sit there and say, well, I don't have to pay taxes to a terrorist people. And then also, too, beside that point, why the hell are you paying taxes anyways when 192 is covered when the British government went bankrupt to we, the people, after World War I, World War II? Oh, wait a minute. The Paris War, the Civil War, 1774, the Revolutionary War. You know, you gotta realize that these bankers and all this stuff taking over and controlling everything. And we know who's doing it, so why are you borrowing money? Why are you getting loans? Why can't you save money up and buy what you need instead of putting it on credit cards? I mean, there's things that we could do without. I mean, I do that all the time. I mean, I won't have a cell phone. What's the point of having a cell phone? I have a phone right now I'm talking on. You know, I don't need to have a tracking device and pay them the privilege to track me. And people say, well, I have a right of my rights. Well, yes, we do. But did you file that right into the contract of your phone company? Did you file that in your contract of your insurance? Did you file that in your local phone bill, which I did on mine twice, a long time ago? Because back then you had to sign for your phone bill, your phone connection. You didn't do it online and just got connected on a card or stuff like that. So in other words, you have no legal or lawful recourses. And they know what they're doing. They know that they're screwing the Constitution right over you, and people are allowing this. They're poisoning us. People are allowing this. And they're getting away with it. And people are going, why? Well, if we're not filing our responsibilities, why not? What was his name? He does a wonderful thing on that, If I Was the Devil. And we played that on the show here, too. I'll think of it here in just a second. It's If I Were the Devil. I'm trying to remember his name. He does a lot of good stuff. Hang on a minute. I'll come up with this here in a minute. And most of you know him when you're my age. We used to listen to him. Hang on just a minute. Yeah, I'm bringing it up right now. I mean, it's the one thing. We have a lot of people in the past that, Paul Harvey, 1965 speech, If I Was the Devil. And people didn't even comprehend what he was trying to explain to us. Some people did, a lot of other people didn't, you know. And that was the one thing that, back then, some of these men and women were seeing what was going on, trying to get people's eyes open as we are doing today to others. And so we're asking, how many generations we have to go? Well, now we figured out a point that, all right, we could personally do FOIA requests on them. Well, we want to ask them to prove their employment. That way we make public. That way the people get to know who to stay away from, who not to do business with. And in that way, when they are illegal in this country, we file to get them hell out of our country. It's just that. See, that's the one thing that people need to start standing together. Now, we could actually make a change with this thing with Trump on this thing, doing his little bombing, says that he doesn't like the country being poisoned like that. Oh, by the way, if anybody who doesn't like pot or hemp, sorry, Trump just came out and said he's going to open up that. And also, too, if you actually do research in by federal law with the 1937 so-called Marijuana Stamp Act, Congress is the British government. Marijuana Stamp Act was passed into place for elected and public servants, registered church members, registered voters, and all immigrants. Actually go read the bill. You might be actually amazed where it actually covers your right to have marijuana so long as it's for native personal use. Doesn't say native Indian. Read the bill. See, this is one thing that people don't read this stuff. They glance over it, or if something doesn't jive with them, they're just going to disagree with it. And I always like it when people say, "Well, Ed, let's agree to disagree." And it's like, what kind of bull is that? Agree to disagree. So in other words, you believe that rape, robbing, and pillaging by some of these public employees believe that's acceptable because that's how their job works on. That's how they get paid, by doing it. Seriously, that's how some of these people really get paid. And we sit back and we watch them. We watch them arrest people and kidnap them and take them to jail when nobody's done crimes. You know, what was it back? Isn't that why we had the Revolutionary War to begin with? Wasn't that part, actually, if you had to do real research in history, part of the Civil War? We know slavery when the 14th Amendment was never amended. We know that the 14th Amendment was passed administratively. We know the 14th Amendment was never ratified, so technically the 14th Amendment doesn't exist. But Congress had to put it through to protect the separation of lawful and illegal because they couldn't put the 14th Amendment in place because those men who did it realized that it was a capital offense. So they voted the 14th Amendment in, and it says, okay, so you get to know if you're lawful or legal. Why does everybody want to argue about the 14th Amendment? Don't you comprehend what the 14th Amendment truly says? Haven't you really ever read the 14th Amendment? I watch all these people on talk shows. You know, we'll sit there and go after people on the 14th Amendment, tell them they don't know what they are. 14th Amendment is really bad for all of us. The 14th Amendment is not there to protect you. And then people say the 13th Amendment. But then again, some of these people will come and tell you how the 16th Amendment was passed and ratified. Folks, sorry, the 14th, or the 13th, or 16th Amendment, the tax deal was never ratified. It was passed administratively after the 1933 Banking Act. And it was passed because elected and public employees have to pay by the de facto system. And if you actually read their system, for getting that employment to get the de facto dollar bill in your pocket from a government agency, from we the people, or the first branch of government, it's a privileged personnel. And so by you being a privileged personnel, that's where people got to realize what privileged personnel and this stuff means. Doesn't mean when some people go off on these tangents, it's very frustrating. So how are we going to solve some of these problems? Well, we have some of the issues in our hand, and that's what I'm saying. We need more people to put some stuff together. I would like to get like one universal letter, try to get it together, bounce it around through everybody here in the next 48 hours. Because if we could get one universal letter out that we get on Facebook and we could get scattered out to the local media. And I agree, because the local media ain't writing shit. They write things to cover up for the government. We know that's a fact. It's not a joke. But we could also, too, hold the local newspapers that are technically owned by the foreign agents, government corporations. I don't know why people think that they're not. That is the one point they are. So these men and women for foreign corporations that are running this stuff that we're allowing to give over our authority. We know a judge is an administrator. Okay, so that's the one point that when you put your paperwork together, and if you got that statement and that law that says he's the administrator, put it in your paperwork, clarify to them, ask them that, like one gentleman always beats into my head, certify, certify, certify. And I can't argue with the guy. That's why I put it out. Right now, I'm getting dicked around a little bit because I don't have transportation. Okay, and they know it because I've been threatened, and everybody in the community is waiting for something with me, and that has been going on. And like I said, I'm going to be getting a hold of the newspapers again tomorrow, what I emailed out dealing with the county. Of course, just like most of it, we'll see, because they're going to end up covering up whatever they can, because I've been through that with the paper. But the other part of the newspaper, I've printed this stuff literally, and literally in their newspapers. I've had paid public ads. They've written stories about me, or news articles dealing with me, the recall, dealing with me with the state attorney general and stuff like this. So it's not like people don't know. But now it's time that we need to get clarification of our public servants. And once we get that out to the general public, because you are listening, people are waking up across our country. We've got speakers even for Donald Trump that are bringing up that I posted some of the other videos I posted up trying to get people to comprehend some of this stuff. Now, people are waking up. Now, the point is when you write those federal and criminal charges, what's going to happen is that people don't comprehend how our system works because under the military of this country. Because technically, the military is supposed to be the ones that pick up the arrest warrants, and that came from the marshal's office, and they're supposed to proceed with those. So if you got criminal intent written up on, or not criminal intent, but criminal facts that you can prove, and when they start asking for it, make sure you get it to them. Because, people say, well, the district attorney won't do anything with criminal charges. Well, you notice that the military has been pulled down to the border. Is anybody paying attention to the truth of that? Mexico sat there and threatened us and said that they're going to invade us more. We're already fighting the Muslims. Look what Muslims have done to, what was that country called? Used to be called England, that's been trying to take us over for years. And now they're being laughed at by the Muslims that have taken over and destroyed their country because of what they call democracy. Are people really paying attention and living in reality? The world is waking up. People are waking up, and everybody keeps going, well, this world needs to be for everybody. The United States is for we the people. I can't go over to China and Germany and all these other countries. I go visit them. Now, if I have a lot of money where I can live in the country, that's plausible. But I don't plan on living in those type of countries because it's not where I feel comfortable. It's not where my life started. And there's too much to see in our country to go to foreign countries. We don't even appreciate what our forefathers gave us in this country. We got a lot of highways and roads now, more than we ever did. Oh, progress, progress. You know, and everybody keeps going, progress, progress. But every time you hear that word progress, and everybody wonders why inflation goes up. Well, there's your progress. They're taking it away from you to pay themselves to build whatever they want to build, destroying our public lands. That's why when you give voluntary income tax, they decide how they're going to spend it. And these men and women actually do. They laugh to the bank. We've had programs that were actually passed by House and Senators to protect us, we the people. Literally. And people didn't get it. It's like I've got a YouTube video out there with me and Senator Roebland dealing with the uninsured motorist fund, because every time you registered your vehicle, they made sure that people were covered in insurance. And this goes back when they started recommending insurance in the 1950s. So that's when they started recommending insurance. Because the state registration had $10, or back then was $5, that went into the state registration for an insured motorist fund. And then in your local property taxes back then, you actually paid an ambulance fee and the hospital fee for public instead of private. And everybody goes, oh, we want private medicine. Back then, it was publicly run. They had to turn in a monthly check sheet of how they spent the money. But that's one thing that people don't know about a lot of the history, how the attorneys and these foreign agents have changed their country in such a dramatic way for their own personal financial gain. You know, and you get anybody sells their soul. A lot of people sell their soul for really cheap. You know, I've been around different political and industries where I've seen it. I'm just fortunate that you know, I just couldn't live with myself doing that. I really couldn't. I couldn't have done that. But the one thing is, that's why putting this information out, and we get this stuff like, it's a good idea. We could try to get this letter out. I won't be able to get to some of that, but I got a couple ideas that have already been emailed to me. I'll sit down sometime tomorrow and throw out my comment back to everybody on the stuff that we were already dealing with. And so I'll get that one out, and then that one, when we get that one out, we'll get something put together and throw it out, make it public, and see what people think. You know, that's up to the people when it comes down to it. Because either it's we the people or it's not we the people. And that's the one point, you know. It's not we the Christians. It's not we the Muslims. It's not we whatever. It's not a religion. This is not a religion structure going after religion. This is going after real man and woman's freedom and their rights of their assets and their property. Religion doesn't give you the rights to your property. Most people, when they go, what do? They give their land, their assets to some church, and they sure don't give it to their assets to their bloodline that's supposed to go, technically. And kids ain't raised today knowing what the bloodline is, what family is. They don't. I mean, kids are taught today, go out and be gay, lesbian, go out and be free. Once you leave, don't look back. You know, just like the same thing as in England, they do that. Now we're doing that in our own country. Our country wasn't brought up that way. You know, neighbors would really help out neighbors. They didn't go to no food program. They didn't have a lot of the programs they have today, especially since the terrorists took over Obama. I mean, I still couldn't believe that people were just jumping over his hands and feet because he was giving them a cell phone. Vote for me, I'll give you a cell phone. Of course, I'm billing it to the taxpayers because it's coming from, we're doing that through welfare. And technically, there is no such thing as welfare. Welfare is we the lawful natives. We have a structure that was put in place to protect we the people. Not immigrants, not foreigners, not terrorists, not anybody else. I mean, these immigrants and stuff, they're not allowed to come to this country and go on welfare. And that's even proven in our own historical records. This country wasn't based on giving people a handout. And then these asylums and all this didn't start until what? If I'm not mistaken, that stuff didn't happen until after the Civil War. Especially it happened with Germany. And if people wonder why, we go through all the problems we have today. I mean, the thing is, we got it where, look at some of your food products you're buying in a grocery store, covered with Roundup, covered with other stuff. I go to the grocery store and it's organic, it says. So I know it's good. Do your research. 70% of your so-called organic is just the pricing in a high price mark just for the word organic, and it comes out of the same ground from the same farmer. Not all of them do, but there are some stores that actually do that who've been starting to be caught. So, as I say, start growing your own food. Collect rainwater. People say, well, you can't do that, Ed, because the government, the public servant says if you do that, you go to jail. Oh, shitter's crap. I've been doing it for, 15 years, 20 years? Before they came up with this law, the administrative rule, that says, if you collect rainwater, it's a crime. Then they came up because it was filed on after I raised the ruckus on Kulongoski's bill. Then it came up, if it fell off your roof, seeing that you're paying taxes, then it's yours. It's like horse shit. I blew that one out of the water up there, too. If you read the letter that I asked with Linda, who registered my manufactured home? Because by Oregon State administrative rules, it says unless it's a government-run building, you're not even supposed to register your mobile home because it's called private property, and that's by ORS. So then these guys sit there and they put a lot of this stuff in the tax rolls, but people don't read their tax rolls. I've been fighting with them on my tax rolls for years after they combined everything 1 year on my taxes. I mean, it went from 360 to 360 to 940, and then it went up to $1,400 a year, and it's like, what the heck? I mean, I got just a little dinky hole in the wall. And, manufactured homes cannot be registered as private property, even private land. And I filed on that. But these men and women will fight to keep you in the system, but now let them go fight and keep me in the system if they want to so choose, but we're going to go through the system my way. So I have filed this stuff on Linda. You get this stuff out there, pass it on, read it. File it on your public employees if you would like to. But remember, leave my name out of it because you're an adult responsibility for your own decisions. You can pass my information around. And I do have disclaimers on that one, absolutely. So, but that's the one thing about passing our education around. So, and that's why I think it's really wonderful that we should sit down and throw some emails back and forth to people tomorrow afternoon on this so we can get a letter out stating this with dealing with Donald Trump says that. And then we got Donald Trump's executive order that says anybody who does human trafficking loses their assets and go to jail. And then he's got another executive order. I can't remember which one that was at. And that was dealing with people taking advantage of people, like what they're doing with the chemicals and stuff. So, and I did put out a really good video that I just put out with Donald Trump, dealing with Donald Trump and his contract he actually has with the military complex. Because Obama and Hillary Clinton were going to sign this country over to the Queen of England. Even though they have no rights to this country. People say, we're a British colony. No, we're not. Do your research. Anybody wants to tell you we're a British colony is lying to you. And I've argued with many men. I've argued with many women on it. I've produced the evidence. They're trying to produce the evidence to me. I've got, people from England and the royal family try to produce evidence to me, trying to tell me this is the way it is, and I send them back, here's what we fought, that's congressional record. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, then if we have to go to court, then they want to go to this thing called World Court. Of course, we've already been through that. So-called World Court asked me and Dave to be judges on it. We already have that. Dave is supposedly, we still registered, filed World Court judge. I wouldn't go do that. People got to pay attention and read what all that's about. That's what me and Dave went through. And of course, the World Court judge, was funded by Rockefeller, I think it is. See, I mean, I wouldn't go and do all the paperwork and do all that. Dave did, cost him money. We wanted to see what the truth was. We were right on the truth. You know, we were talking about that. We did that on our talk show back a couple years ago. We've already been through some of this stuff, and that's like what everybody's getting upset with. What they've done with so-called the Continental Marshals and judges. Well, people were suggesting things to them. The way they were filing, the way they were doing things was wrong. And that's the one thing that people weren't getting onto it. And then they get them on different paths. And some of those paths even led people to file UCC codes and on their 192 bond. I got them in jail. And that's where some of these people that did it. And then wondering why, I wasn't supporting them. We got some people that are doing that right now today with, these children advocacy groups. Well, let me clarify. I'm not an activist. Okay? I'm not out there. I'm doing this for myself and for the people. Because I'm not doing this out there for, for fame. I'll tell you that one for right now. This type of fame you don't want in your life where everybody's like, oh, shit. Do we have to be worried of being around him? I've had people that were scared because, I was being threatened in the Capitol in public meetings, literally being threatened in public by these elected and public officials. And some people have been there. They've witnessed this. I've even been at their meetings where some of these other people have been threatened by these domestic terrorists. But that's why we won't get into believing into these frauds. That is the one thing. And then these got a new article in California, rainwater being tested. Well, we know it's been dealing with what's going on with man-made chemicals. We know it's in the air that's destroying us. So we'll get that's the other point that I want to bring up with the letter, that we want to get the manufacturer state of origin of these chemicals, and these chemicals are on the line, what they're using, spraying us with the airplanes and stuff like this. I know I've read them. I know I've pulled them up before, passed them around. But we want to be able to get the chemicals, and not only that, the manufacturer state of origin and the safety data sheets, if anybody knows what I'm talking about there. And I'm doing that right now with another circumstances I'm putting together on vaccinations and stuff. And so I've got that almost finished up because I want to make sure people get that one when we get that out. Because I'm putting the manufacturer safety data sheets, into this so people can actually read the chemicals in vaccinations and what they say their side effects are. This way we stop this arguing over little bullshit. Because everybody says, well, vaccines are good for you. Well, I don't do them. Never have to the best of my ability. They keep trying to give me flu shots or something else. And I know because, being disabled is covered. I don't want your stuff. I'm not your guinea pig to be testing out. That I do know. So this is one thing that people have got to consider in their life, too, of how do they want to be affected? How do they want to look at these things that are being transformed? People use the word progress. That means you're just out to destroy anything for your gain. Conservative. They got all these damn names out there. that changes things, and that's the one thing about lawyers and attorneys and judges and your elected public officials. They throw all these stuff out, keep changing county and city administrative rules. Well, they have to do something to keep them busy, so they have to write these criminal acts. So that's why it's so important when they write it, use it. So anyhow, cover some things tonight. We'll get together. I'll bounce the letter around too. I got some information. I've talked to a couple people today about that. But like I said, I'll try to get some of the manufacturer state of origin sheets here tomorrow. Excuse me, long day again. Writing these other couple letters and my other one, putting that one together for my disability. Because I hate it, when you're supposed to die in pain, all this stuff, and it's like the doctor says, yeah, we know you're in pain, but we want to give you psychological medication. We don't want to give you pain medication. Because you take pain medication, you become a drug addict. And I'm like, I've been doing this off and on since my neck was broken. And the medication, I was the original guinea pig for the state of Oregon and the medical society on drugs and alcohol, and what was that? Responsibility. I was one of the original ones. We went through this with all doctors, and then we proved it. Then all of a sudden, we and everybody started getting attacked. What? And that's what I tell people. If you're not responsible, and people go, I get lost in booze and drugs. I don't want to hear you whining because you're not responsible. It's mind over matter. If it minds, it matter. If it don't mind, it don't matter. Everybody comes up with an excuse because every time anybody did a drink or did whatever they did the first time, I'm not into the crazy stuff, but I mean, your basics. Basically, it comes down to basic, old-time war medicine is what they used to call it. But, it's called responsibility. And when people give up your responsibility, it's frustrating. But then again, how were you instructed? How were you taught? How did you learn? We got to get. See, that's the one thing that instead of people pointing fingers, of what's going on, how did they come to that conclusion? Think about how they came to that conclusion. And, most people, especially in public positions, all they do is they think with greed because that's what they're trained to think is greed. We know it. Anybody who's been a public official, you know that. I know. I've been there too myself. Watched it when they asked me to do budgets, and I wasn't increasing things. I was looking at a way to save money, and I was actually fired from a good government job because I wouldn't conspire to just keep tapping in, so I get a pay raise every so much and do that stuff. I knew what was going on. I was only 18 and a half years old, and I knew what was going on. That's what sort of stuns me with people. The writing's on the wall, and they don't get it. Some of the old movies, they used to have a lot of good old movies. And if you actually paid attention and watched the movie, you could actually see the outline of what, why, and how they accomplished different things. Good one that I used to always love growing up was Macy Day, Christmas Story. Downtown New York City, Macy's Day. I think it was done in 1934. But if you know the real history, Macy's came up with Christmas for sales. Christmas never really existed prior to Macy's store coming up with it. Well, it's all in real history. It's in historical documents. It's been published. You ask different people that write different structures trying to claim it back this area and that area. But most of them have thoughts and theories, no evidence. So that's why it's good to have, to have everything notarized, mainly certified. And when you're at any government agency, any public building, and you're getting any type of paper, mission statement, a copy of a traffic deal, have them notarize it. What the heck? Have it notarized. What is it going to do? What is it going to do? Hurt it? No. Just get it notarized. You might be amazed. So, but anyhow, we're going to open up the floor, see if anybody would like to throw something in. If I missed something in some of the early
All participants are unmuted.
So if I missed anything earlier, bring it up. Floor's open. No one tonight, huh? No one wants to speak up? Hello? I guess we hit every point.
Ed, this is John, Fort Worth, Texas. I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I need a good 4-year letter to bank directors. Where can I get that, or would you have that?
A lawyer letter for fighting directors?
No, a 4-year.
Oh, 4-year. Oh, okay.
To bank directors.
Possibly. You have my email, don't you?
Yes. Do you remember me?
Yeah, it's been a while since we've talked or emailed.
Yes. It's in Messenger.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, email me the question, and I'll get something and respond to you by tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll get something to respond to you, because I got these other 2 letters I want to try to finish up tonight. We're going to start on this other one that we want to do, and email me your thoughts, and I'll get some thoughts back to you on that one. And then the other one, too, we're going to be setting up a couple FOIA requests, too. So we're going to be writing that. So when you're putting in your paperwork in the counties and stuff like this, you're actually putting, you're going to insert a foreign registration and then a FOIA form. So that way, kind of having difficulty thinking of it. Basically, you want them to release the information to you. And so what I'll be doing is combining that. I don't have every state. You have to look at your state. But I will be putting up the 2 federal laws that say that they have to provide it to you. And I did that with the county when I approved the budget, when they stole the $30 million from the students, pocketed the money. This is all real. It's been in the newspapers and stuff. I mean, people were still going, why, Ed, they haven't killed you yet? Oh, shit, you don't know what I've been through in life and have people doing this and where I've been, gone up and, being followed and tagged and, I've been through some things myself. So, but, I'm not out here bragging. Trust me, it's not bragging. It's like I stand up for my rights, and that's the one thing. We shouldn't be afraid to stand up for our rights and then our children first. My children, that's another issue. I don't have them anymore. Never had them. But they went before I even knew that I even had emotions to them, technically. So that was the one thing that is different. There's things that I miss out in life that I never grew up, basically raising children. I had children in my life a couple of years, but I wanted them to be educated, to know what the system was. I had one of the ones that were with me that was getting it, and started catching on more of the school administrative rules than even the teachers did. They freaked out. They didn't like when that happened. And so when you educate your kids correctly, when they stand up to the bull of what the teachers are lying to them about, teachers have to correct things in the classroom, too, if your kids start speaking up and other kids hear them. Actually, it does work. It happened in my life at one point. So, but yeah, get that to me. I'll get that back to you. Please email it to me at least 2 or 3 times, because I'm still getting a lot of emails, too, trying to keep up with all this stuff. Anyhow, any other questions? Did I hit a couple points? And hopefully some of the other people that were on the phone earlier with me, hopefully we hit those points. So, all right. Well, we'll get the data safety sheet out, and I'll get that put together and get that out to people. Because the data safety sheet, I mean, I don't know where people think about that one, but you want the manufacturer state of Oregon? Data safety sheet, the side effects, and what's going to happen. And eventually it would be nice if somebody was near the industry. That way they could go in there and get a certified copy of the manufacturer state of origin or the data safety sheets. if we could actually get a copy of that, certified copy, well, even though it's on the internet and it's part of the corporation foundation, it's already copyrighted and patented. But that even helps when if people go after the board members or the CEO. Like Monsanto, I've been trying to get these, like even the oil company going through Dakota, trying to get the natives to excuse me. Anyhow, trying to get the natives to file on the corporation members. And then the chief is like, no, we can't do that. We're getting money. And I was explaining things to his wife, and she's going, I never thought about the bloodline. I never thought about that before. And I'm thinking to myself, you guys don't even know your own native history. And I found out that's the one thing, the tribe over there, most of the elders don't even know their own history. The youngers know most of the history better than their elders. That's the sad part when you go through those points and you look back in history. So, anyhow, anybody else would like to speak up? Hopefully had enough points. So, all right, so what else is going out? Feel free to use, pass on, recreate. Just remember, we are not lawyers, we're not attorneys. We're just men and women that read this stuff, pay attention. We're not religious. We don't sit there and belong to some cult or religious organization called the government, corporation, industry. We don't believe in that structure, That's the one thing that we're not going to be joining foreign corporations that are destroying our country. People go, well, we need to combine Christianity and the Bible and all this stuff with government. No, that's why our forefathers said no. Learn real history. Quit listening to these ignorant people that are trying to sit there to put you under their belief system, so they don't believe in freedom. Really talk to people in a lot of religion and ask them where their freedom comes from. And ask them, so if you're free, you have a right to carry your gun. How come you don't carry your sidearm or something like that in your covered wagon? If you have a right, how come you don't sit there and show your right? We don't have to carry them all the time on our hip in public. I grew up in the West Coast. In the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and into the early 1990s, everybody had shotguns and pistols on their dashboard or in their windows. People weren't afraid until all this so-called fear of guns and gun-free zone bullshit started popping up. What was the first school shooting? I think it was in 1962. And look back at reason why. Oh, experimental psychological medication. Read what these drugs are doing to the kids, and you're wondering why these kids are going through, and then they say, well, we're prosecuting this kid for murder, even though we gave him mind-altering excuse me, mind-altering drugs. And I tell you, folks, that's what they're doing to disabled and elderly today. At least here in Oregon, they're going, well, we can't give you pain medication. So we're going to give you these antidepressants and psychological medication. We know your pain is real, but we know it's in your head, too. So pain and your nerves do coexist, but you're not supposed to feel your nerves, so we're going to give you this new medication that's going to kill your nerve endings so you don't feel the pain. And I'm thinking, what morons, because that's what we're going through with kids that are taking Ritalin and all this stuff, their brain shortening out and they're snapping. So they're setting disabled and elderly to do this stuff. And basically, so in the state of Oregon now, they put if somebody was so mentally disturbed and then they're in a mental hospital, they can stop feeding them, let them starve to death. This is your humanity of your Christians. This is the humanity of your religious people. Remember, your governor, Kate Brown, is a religious servant that works for the government of Oregon. That's a corporation of religion. Your courts are run. That's why I call them black robes. Black robes. Black robe popes. That's your judges. And when you step out the movie, hell was created to mind screw people so that way they could control us, so that way we could go, oh, we have to pay the privilege to go to heaven. I mean, come on, if there was such thing as God, what does he need money for? Why are we paying something for somebody else to rape, rob, and pillage, arming them with fuel and arms to go destroy our neighbors? Doesn't make sense. Paying alleged income taxes or property taxes that they're stealing from us and shoveling. I mean, I've asked them to open up the records, the public records from the city to Toledo and state. I mean, I filed on them for a request to open up public records so we could actually see the bank accounts. I was threatened. Keep doing that, Ed. You're not going to be around. I mean, I even had Sharon Brandstetter on audio tape threatening me with some other people of the community and Democrats that, what the hell, a so-called attorney up in McMinnville ended up with the copies of it and then screwed me out of money and then cost me my case against the city. Well, you can type in Ed Johnson, City of Toledo. I had them on that. I had the tape recordings with them actually personally threatening my life, with one of the former police chiefs threatening my life, telling me if I didn't conform and do what I'm told. Hey, I'm not making this stuff up. Most of us know this. We have lived this with even some of the kids their kids are with DHS, because they're told if you don't sign this piece of paper, you're going to steal. We're gonna steal your kid. And then when you sign the paper, you don't even comprehend what you read. You signed over your kid to them. Then you wonder why in 2 or 3 days they come up with the police department and pick up the kid. Hey, you gave him custody. People do this. I watched it. I've seen it. Dave. Go ahead. Okay, that's somebody who was barking up there. But anyhow, so, I mean, this is stuff that we live today all the time, what goes on. And I'll get that information out to the gentleman as soon as he emails me a couple times. Like I said, this is a point that when we're working together, we get these letters out, and it's like, you know, putting this stuff out. When I did the letter out to the state to ask them who owns the children. Yeah, I knew that was going to start a front page. Then now I'm getting ready to send them the deal that I want them to prove who they work for. The House and Senate and this employee. Who do you work for? Do you work for the people of Oregon, or do you work for the lawyers and the Vatican and the religious corporations? We want to know the truth because, see, you keep telling us that we don't pay the privilege to live, we're going to murder us. When is enough and enough of folks? You know, people go, oh, Jesus died. What kind of bullshit? Is that what people say? What? You're whining, but you're doing the same thing. You'll let a man die because you're willing to bury your head. 300 Roman soldiers against over 30,000 people. Shows you the fear, huh? Where were the men? And then we got men that want to be men, and then we got to repress them, and then you know, we got to start standing up. We got to get the paperwork filed, and you know, and then after that happens. We already know change is coming up. That everybody knows that. That's not nothing we're afraid of. The only thing is afraid of is know the destiny after what might turn out. So I'm just looking at one way to make sure it's written, presented right as best as we can do, and to make sure that we have structure for our elected and public servants. You know, I mean, it's like Dave and I did serve at, what was that? Back in 2012. We did serve the military executive orders on the Constitution. That's right. That's filed in the Secretary of State's office of Oregon. We've, you know, so I mean, things are out there. We know things are moving, but now we need to start standing up more, because once we get the chemicals stopped in our communities, and that's the other point, folks, is get fluoride out of your water system. It's rat poison. Don't buy bottled water. You're fools. Read the label on it. And if you know that two products have had clear, what they call, I can't think of it, tapeworms in the damn bottle. They've already been proven. You can type in Coca-Cola, parasites. I mean, they've been, you know, bottled water has been nailed with parasites that are killing people. in the media. You know, I mean, and I still can't believe people go out and buy bottled water. I got a garden hose. What happened to the days we used to drink out of a garden hose? We weren't afraid back then. And most of the communities back then did not have fluoride in the water system. Some fluoride didn't become a dentist product until the 50s. It wasn't pushed until the mid-70s, you know, as, you know, fluoride for your teeth to harden your teeth and all that. A lot of it didn't go in effect until 1980, at least to my comprehension, and I might be wrong on some of that. If I am, somebody correct me, and if I'm right, then I've done my other part of my history. But, I mean, I know it was like 52 when, what was it? I think it was 52 when Colgate came out with it and their product pushing it. So, I mean, it's like, this is the one thing that, you know, when you look back in history of what we've done to our bodies, what we're doing to each other, and then it's like the government sits there and goes, well, we're selling you a pack of smokes, but it says on the label it causes cancer, but we're going to charge you $2.41 of tax per pack of cigarettes for education, and then we need to do cancer study research instead of paying for the cancer that we caused you by this product, and you're paying the tax. Not only that, you technically won a class action lawsuit for $1 billion. So we're going to charge you for the cigarettes, we're going to charge you for the tax, we're going to charge you for the billing of it. But the money still stays into our hand, the corporation. I mean, shit, Marlboro owns some of those nonprofits where the money goes. So do your senators and congressmen do. Your county commissioners, your city treasurers are involved. And then people don't even check out the people who are running for office. They get cute little sound bites and they go right for the sound bite. They don't even check out real history. That's the sad part we live. We really do live that today, and it really is sad. So, well, seeing that, I guess we'll call it an early evening tonight. Don't have an issue with that one. Because I would like to get a couple of these other projects out. And like I said, I will send you also, too, what I filed on Linda Pilser, because I want her to prove to me. I asked her to prove. Do you work for the de facto government? Or do you work for the corporation government? And I quoted her both laws in my statement, too. The both laws that are in UCC codes. Because we know we have a two-government system. We know we have a de jure, we know we have a corporation. You know, and the de jures are technically supposed to be the county and cities. They're not supposed to be incorporated with anything of any part of any of this stuff. And that wasn't even delegated and started coming into place in the 1970s. Because prior to the 1940s, most cities didn't have what they have today. They didn't have all these government loans and fundings and all these write-offs, you know, legal things that they're doing to we the people. You know, I do recall going back in the 70s where people were getting their water and electricity bill written off. I always thought that was pretty cool. And I remember that stuff. You know, used to hang around the city halls and stuff as a kid. Used to participate in a lot of political stuff as a kid growing up. Sort of say I came from a political family. To me, I never looked at it that way, but sometimes we don't look at things the way they are. So, like I said, I gotta get this other letter from my medical written down because of my spine and what's going on. It's standing and different things are becoming frustrating because of the pressure in the lower spine. And they're telling me, well, we're not going to give you pain medication. We want to put you on psychological drugs. And, you know, I've got medical evidence. Crushed back, 19 blown discs, 5 in the spinal cord, next titanium, closed head injuries. But you're supposed to die. So even though we got administrative rules, says that we're supposed to do this, So, like I said, you get to the point where you get done talking, then you just got to file on them. And when you file on them, things start maneuvering. It does work that way. People are figuring that one out today. We are actually seeing changes. People who are paying attention, we really are seeing changes in our system. So, but it does come from us to do it. So, but anyhow, like I said, seeing that nobody wants to throw up anything right now, throw in anything, I guess we'll say, may the Great Spirit bless you. May Mother Earth feed you, bring you life, Creator look over you. And most of all, do your research. Because if you don't protect yourself, you can't ask for help unless you're not able to help yourself and protect others with you when you're doing this. So, anyhow, I appreciate everybody joining us again. I don't know, we've been doing this stuff for about 3 years now. I mean, well, I've been doing this stuff a little longer than that, but different than a couple other people. My problem with some of the past talk shows, I wouldn't get into the religious and praying and doing all this other stuff. That's why everybody kept on going, hey, you need to find God. I said, I did find God. Look in the sky. Look at the dirt. Look at the trees. Look at the deer. Look at the elk. And then we're watching all this stuff disappear in front of our face, just like the buffalo did. Anyhow, appreciate your time, folks. Look us up. Double check the research. If we got something wrong, you see something, you catch it, please inform us, because we don't have a problem of being responsible adults and talking things out and, putting up information if we got something wrong. So, all right. May the Great Spirit bless you.
Thank you, Ed, for the medium show, not a short show, because short show would be 1 hour instead of an hour and 50 minutes. But either way, April 15th, 2018 is today's date. If you have questions about previous shows, it's on Organ Trackers on YouTube. Go look, browse through the videos, watch them, and they'll explain a lot of things from the past episodes that are current to today. And remember, we are evolving ourselves. Our knowledge keeps on increasing, so we keep on bringing the knowledge to you. But we are not attorneys.
I'd add one thing to that. See, that's the one thing that people forget, like, with Bruce and all these guys that have done all these things, that all these guys keep ended up in jail. And when you watch these men and women, and some of them, I'm not downing these men and women. They have their beliefs. They have their strong religious beliefs. But they went by religion. They didn't go by what they were saying by the Constitution. So just a thought. I argued with Bruce on many issues, even on his own talk shows and stuff. And, with National Liberty Alliance and John and all these other people. And it's amazing when you watch all these people that have done these things, and we're still here, and we're reading what they wrote, recording what the system wrote, and that was the point that you can't sit there and say that you have a title of nobility like a lawyer or attorney does, because the only one that can give title of nobility is the corporation managers, and that's Congress. You can't have a title of nobility without Congress doing that, and that means you become a foreigner. You have no authority in the United States, 48 states. You're just an UCC flacky outside of the term. So once people start really comprehending that, we're going to save this country real quick. Anyhow, you all have a good night.
Okay, well, as I was going to say, we are not attorneys, we are not lawyers, we are not professional anything, except maybe we are professional pain in the asses. But we pride ourselves on that one.
Absolutely.
So, in the end, guys, have a good week, and next weekend, Saturday at 5 p.m.
We're going to go over vaccinations.
Pacific Standard Time. Hopefully we'll have more of a respectable host, considering he likes to interrupt a lot. And we will actually get some good information on the child abuse known as vaccination. Thank you again, and you have a great week.